Hi, biology students. This is Miss Nook, your science teacher, and I was wanting to go over the genetics extra practice, which was given to you on a handout. And some of you tried it, some of you didn't do very well on it, and so I wanted to make a video to go over what should be on some of these problems. I'm going to go over one of the problems in detail and leave the other one and that's in the middle up to you, and then we will go over the last one halfway so that you can see what I'm looking at, and then you can fill in the rest and I will look at it on Friday. So the very first problem on this worksheet that you should have is the question about the dimples. And what I have done is I have gone ahead and made a key on the next slide, which I'll show you in a second. But first of all, what a lot of you missed is right here where it says dimples are dominant to no dimples. And what that means is that the majority of the people in this pedigree, meaning the unshaded people, have dimples. Normally on a pedigree, and I did not do this to trick you, it was just the way that this pedigree was written. The shaded individuals usually have the trait that you are tracking. So you have to read the problem carefully to catch little things like this, where it says dimples is dominant to no dimples, meaning that there should be more people in this pedigree that have dominant dimples. So those are the white shapes. On the next slide, what I did was I went ahead and filled in the genotypes of what these people have. And I made a little key down here that says little d is no dimples, to keep things straight in my brain. And big D or big D little d means that they have dimples. And you can't really know what an individual has until you look at their children. So when we go up to the top on the left at individual 1, we see that they're shaded, which means that they do not have dimples. Remember, in this particular pedigree, the recessive trait is shaded. So they do not have dimples. Their genotype is DD. This person does have dimples, number 2, but we don't know what their genotype is. So it could either be big D, or big D, little d. And in order to figure out that, you would have to get into more detail. But we need to first look at this mating between 8 and 9 and their offspring, because that's what the questions are about. So first of all, I decided that 8 was heterozygous, meaning big D, little d for dimples, because number 1, they're unshaded, they do have dimples, and they come from parents that one has dimples right here and one does not. So it definitely means that they have the little d in there, and because they have the trait, I can go ahead and assume that they have a big D. You may need to stop and rewind the video to watch that again to understand it, but I will go over it with number 9 because it's the same thing. Number 9 I decided was heterozygous for dimples because a couple reasons. Number 1, number 9 has siblings that are different. One does not have dimples and one does have dimples. That means that this guy, number 9, has to have a little d in there somewhere because they do not have the trait. No, they do have the trait. They do have dimples, but they're coming from a heterozygous mating because they got that little d in there. So I made their parents heterozygous. This individual, number 10, is automatically little d. They do not have dimples. And number 11, we don't know for sure, but we know they have a big D in there somewhere. Same down here for number 12 and number 14. They're both little d. They do not have dimples. And number 13, we don't know what they are until they mate and have a child. So we'll leave them as big D, or big D, little d. So the first question says, how many family members have dimples? Well, in this case, you would count the white shapes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people have dimples. If you said 4, you are incorrect only because this was showing that the ones that have the trait are white, and the ones who don't have the trait are shaded. It asks us for letter B, what is the genotype of individual 3 and 4? Well, if we go back up here, individual 3 and individual 4 have to be big D, little d, and big D, little d, because they produced an offspring that is little d, little d. So they each contributed a recessive gene to this offspring, number 10. So they have to be big D, little d. That is the answer to B. Letter C says, can either individual number 8 or 9 be homozygous? The answer would be no. And the reason is because you have individual 12 and you have individual 14 that both have the little d's as their genotype. So in order to get that, both of the parents have to be heterozygous in order to give the little d, but still have the trait of dimples. And last but not least, I don't know why this is written as C, but it should be D. It says, explain the family relationship that 12 has with 2. So here's individual 12, and here's individual 2. And if this was you, you would be a boy. This would be your mom. This would be your dad. And on your mom's side, this would be your grandma. So this would be your maternal grandmother. That is the relationship between 12 and 2. 2 is the maternal grandmother to 12. Now that you have that, you can go on to problem number 2. In this particular example, the recessive trait is shaded. So this should be a lot easier to do than number 1. So I won't go over that. You should be able to do that on your own. Number 3, the last problem on this worksheet, is giving you a little more information about pedigrees and how they're written. The trait that is being traced, this dark shaded trait, whatever it is, we don't know, is recessive because it is not showing up in most of the individuals in this pedigree. And that answers the question down here, is this trait dominant or recessive? Now, going up to the generations, this is generation 1, generation 2, generation 3. If you need to put this into perspective so that you understand, place yourself at the bottom. So I'll say this is me, this black circle. This is my mom and dad. And then this is my mom's parents up here, and this is my dad's parents over here. So it asks you to identify the genotypes of the following individuals. Generation 3, person 3. So generation 3 is here, the bottom, and person 3 is numbered for you right here, and that person has the trait, whatever this trait is. That'll be up to you to decide if this is a, this is recessive, obviously, so whatever letter you decide, it would be the little ones, so little b, for example. Person, generation 1, person 1, again, would be a recessive trait, and that would be little b, little b. Generation 2, person 1, is not shaded, but that person comes from parents that one of them is recessive and the other one does not have the trait. So I would make that person big B, little b. Generation 2, person 4 would be this guy right here. And I would say that this guy is homozygous dominant. And